Hey guys, it's Audra and welcome back to 365 Projects. It has been a hot minute since I have done a wrap-up video. So the books that I have to share with you today are for March and April. Now normally I go from least favorite to most favorite in terms of star ratings. However, today I'm going to go in the order that I read through just to kind of get through 21 books. So it's going to be very brief on each one, I hope, because I read 8 books in March and 13 in April. I want to get to be able to talk about my books I read in May for the Asian Readathon because they were amazing. So let's just get through this video quickly as possible and move along. So with that, the first book that I read in March was Greetings from Witness Protection by Jake Burt. This is a middle grade book about a family who obviously needs to go on witness protection, and they have been advised to mask who their family is by adding an extra person. And with that, they take a girl who's basically in foster care, kind of from a group home type situation, and add them to their family. She is, let's see, what is her name? Nikki. She is kind of a wild child at first. She definitely knows how to pick pockets, and it kind of plays to their advantage because of course the people who are after the family find her, and then things ensue. I thought this would be one that I would add to my permanent collection. There is a pretty detailed description of murder. So I'm not sure if it's good for 4th and 5th grade. I would say more 6th and up perhaps, but I did enjoy it and I think I gave it 4 stars. So not bad, but not my favorite either. However, the next one I read was a definite favorite, a definite reread, and that's a middle grade. This must have been for middle grade March. There we go. Read these for middle grade March. Was Front Desk by Kelly Yang. This book was so good. 5 stars all the way around. This is about Mia Tang and her family. They are looking for the American dream and can't quite find it, and then they are given the opportunity to run this hotel, or I think maybe a motel, and there's a lot of catches involved because the landlord is not a nice man, and they, along the way, they begin housing illegal immigrants, and it's kind of that whole conversation. It's a lot about class, and a lot about poverty, and a lot about racial divide through the lens of a kid and her friends at school, and how they come together to help each other, and it is so very good. 5 stars, highly recommend. You've got to read this one. The next one I made it to was a reread for me, and I gave 5 stars to Prisoner B 3087 by Alan Gratz. This one I talk about a lot because it is my favorite historical fiction for middle grade. This is based on a true story about a boy who survived 10 different concentration camps. And the whole story was the man that it was based upon, Jack Gruner, went to Scholastic and said that he was starting to lose his memories and he wanted to share his story before he forgot it, and this is his story. It is insane, obviously, everything that he went through. It's very well done for middle grade. Once again, it's one of those that would be high middle grade just because there are some very detailed accounts of hangings and those kind of things. But I would highly recommend this one as well. So after all those highly rated books, this is a book that I did not rate because my rating would be so low. Because about halfway through it, I stopped listening, wasn't interested at all, but I continued to listen so I can count it as a read, which I don't know why I did that because it was brutal. When the Sky Fell in Splendor by Emily Henry. This one was one that was so super hyped by everybody, and then it feels like it's just let everybody down. It's been pitched as the Serpent King meets the Stranger Things, and I could see that. I just stopped getting invested halfway through, so I didn't rate it because I didn't want to um, put that on Goodreads to influence the author's rating when I didn't retain anything from it, especially the last half. I just kind of put it on 2 times speed, turned it all the way down, and just got through it. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And the next one was one that I finally finished. I had set it aside and then picked it back up. Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This one is a thriller, so I can't tell you too much about it, but it is about between a girl and her psychiatrist who is psycho. But it was a 4-star read. It revolves also around the psychiatrist's husband and testing him for her. Like, it was a whole hot mess, but it was definitely a 4-star thriller. Then the next one I finished was Full Cicada Moon by Marilyn Hilton. This is a middle grade novel in verse about a girl in 1964 in Vermont who is mixed, I believe, Japanese and black, and it's during the time of Apollo 11. She wants to be an astronaut, and of course during that time period, like, boys did woodworks, girls did facts, and it's about her wanting to do something other than the norm then, and how women should have those same rights as men, and same thing with race. It was just very, very well done, and one that I will reread in the future, and it was a 5-star read for me. So very good. Highly recommend that one. And then we had another one that I was highly anticipating just because the cover is gorgeous, and that is Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. This was well done, but it became very repetitive, even though that was the point of the plot. It's a boy that it's kind of like a Groundhog's Day story, where he relives the same day over and over again to see if he can save her life. So this is Jack and Kate. They meet at a party. They fall for each other. Kate has a illness, and it's whether or not he can find the cure for her in time, essentially. And it's just he relives this same thing over and over and over again. So I gave it 4 stars. I did really like the characters a lot. Then my last book of the month for March was Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson, and I gave this 5 stars. This is about 6 different kids all going through very hard situations at home. One has parents in prison, one who they're getting deported. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of heartache going through these kids' life, and they meet in a classroom after they agreed to do this, just to kind of talk about things, and it's how they build a relationship. I read through this so fast, and it is so short, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I rated it 5 stars, so it will probably be one that I reread in the future. Again, that me saying that a lot in this video shows you how good books really are, because I don't do that a whole lot, but I'm wanting to, so that's a good sign. Now, a lot of the ones in April I have had to return to the library, or I have loaned out, so I will put them on the screen here. The first one from April was The Accidental Beauty Queen by Terry Wilson. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was just a cute chick lit type book about a woman who is an elementary librarian, so I loved the references. There were a lot of Harry Potter references, like the love interest, like nickname her Hermione, and there's just a lot of like bookish stuff throughout that was really cute. And she has an identical twin who is a beauty pageant queen. Well, the beauty pageant sister gets an allergic reaction, but she doesn't want to quit because she's at 30. My goodness, I believe. And so after this year, she cannot compete in this particular beauty pageant anymore. And it's the pageant their mother won a long time prior, and their mother has since passed, I believe, from cancer. But it was just cute and a lot of fun, so I gave it 4 stars. It's obviously, it was in my wheelhouse of just being the elementary librarian, about a single teacher that's just wanting to have vacation and not getting it. So, highly recommend that one if you fall in any of the same categories as myself. The next one I read was The Girl in the Locked Room by Mary Downing Hahn. This one I just gave 3 stars to. Wasn't as impressed as I would have hoped. And again, this is about a girl who has been locked inside of a room like 100 years prior, still being in the same house. A new girl moves in. She has a lot of the same kind of style books. They follow the same kind of plot. But she's my favorite childhood author, so I was having higher hopes than that. Just didn't meet that, but I will definitely give her next book a try when it comes out here soon. Up next is the book club book for my staff book club, and that was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is highly read and highly rated, and I gave it 4 stars just because it was very slow to get into. But you have this woman, well, it starts off as a girl, and it's her whole life living as the marsh girl, and about all the family that has left her and the abuse, and how she is like one with this marsh or the swamp, and just her whole story growing up. But it's also entwined with a murder mystery about this guy named Chase, and he's pushed off of this like tower type thing, and he dies, and nobody knows that was like her guy that would come out to the swamp, and they would be together, and there's just a whole lot of things going on. And again, very, very well done. The ending made everything wrap up so well, and my jaw dropped. And the entire way, like, you were so confused about the relationships and about who could have done this murder that it was very, very, very good. So highly recommend that one too. And then after that, I read a graphic novel that I would say again is high middle grade, that I gave 5 stars, called The New Kid, and that was by Jerry Craft. This is obviously about a new kid at school, and he is a mixed kid, and there's just a lot of commentary about race and how we treat kids as teachers, and like, I don't know, there was one page that was like talking about how the librarian was like, oh my goodness, this is a black kid, so you have to read this book about a black boy, and like, it just made me roll my eyes, because it's can be true, even though it shouldn't be, but I did really enjoy this one a lot, and so I gave it 5 stars. Another one I will reread in the future. And then I had The Last Year of the War by Susan Messner, and this is a book I was nervous about, because I've loved all of her books until the very, very end. And was this the same? Not quite the same. The other ones had this like weird fantasy twist, and I'm not a fan of that with historical fiction. They just don't fit together. This is about a woman named Elise who is 14 in Iowa, and her family has German ties, and they are taken into like this internment camp because they're considered a Nazi sympathizer, and they are in this camp also with a Japanese American families, and it's about her friendship with this girl there, and then they go separate ways, and how she's searching for this girl, and again, it was very, very good. If you like World War II fiction, I'd highly recommend to pick that one up. And from there, I moved into one that was speculative fiction that I saw here from Mel from Mel to the Annie's channel, called River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey, I believe that might be how you say it. The first book in a series. I gave it 3 stars, so I won't be finishing that series, I don't think. So apparently, a long time ago, the U.S. government was considering bringing feral hippos into swamps in Louisiana as an alternative meat source, which sounds insane, and it would have been, essentially, because they would turn feral. But it's about this group of people, a ragtag team, that goes on the hunt and like tries to get this population under control, essentially. there was a genderqueer character that was done really well, so I appreciated to see that diversity in historical fiction, which we don't get to see enough. But it just didn't really. It wasn't really a book that I guess was meant for me as a reader, and maybe other people would enjoy that if you kind of like that kind of twist. It was just a little bit too much, a little too violent and gory, so not really my thing. And then I moved into The Unteachables by Gordon Corman. This is obviously middle grade, and it's a book about a teacher, and they call him Kermit, I feel. Yeah, Zachary Kermit. He is like super near retirement, and he's just kind of coasting by, and he gets to teach this class that they deem the Unteachables, which horrible to call them that, but obviously it's about him changing and the kids changing, and it was super endearing by the end, and it was a 4-star read. That will be one that I get for the shelves at my elementary school, just because the kids love his books, and it's just a good addition. Next up, I read Can't Escape Love by Alyssa Cole. Now, I honestly don't remember a whole lot about it. I rated it 4 stars. This is one of those that's like a novella between her books in this series, and I was so super excited about it. It's Regina's story, who is the sister of Portia. Regina is disabled in a wheelchair, and she's a boss. You know what? She has her like own science blogging company, and then like her soothing thing that she does is she listens to the voice of this guy that solves puzzles on the internet, and like all of his past videos have been deleted or something. So it's their love story of meeting in person. I don't remember any of that part. I remember like the build up to like how soothing the voice was for her, but like I don't remember anything about that. So I'm not sure that that's a good sign. But like I said, I still gave it 4 stars. I still love all these books. I've heard that Alyssa Cole is coming to one of our it's like a Generation Romance conference or something. So she'll be here. I'm definitely taking like my entire series for her to sign. And I need to read the next book that just came out in April as well. So yeah, I might need to reread that one, honestly, because I don't remember a whole lot. But the next one that I read was The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara. And I gave this one 4 stars. I really fell in love with some of the characters, especially through the audiobook. The audiobook narrator does a fantastic job of bringing these different people to life and all their intertwining relationships. So this is set in the 1980s in New York City with the Harlem Ball scene, and this is the House of Extravaganza, and it is the first Latin-only like drag queen house. And so, like I said, you have a lot of amazing characters that come together in this house that are trying to make it and make a life out of their love for drag, essentially. And this is all surrounded about the AIDS epidemic. So with that is a lot of hard issues and like a lot of hard loss about even like characters that you end up falling in love with, you have to say goodbye to. Now, the reason I gave it 4 stars is because there were some points that I wasn't quite sure about. Like, of course, within this unfortunate time with the 1980s, with AIDS and the drag queens, like, there's a lot of assault that happened, which I was aware of, but to read about it is another thing. There is a moment at the end of the book that has stuck in my brain that I can't unfortunately get out in terms of trauma that happened to a person, and if I could maybe take away that moment, I would have given it 5 stars. I don't know. It just really broke my heart, and I can't let that one go. So just go into it knowing that there is a lot of trigger warnings for assault, rape, loss, like drug use, big time drug use also. So I really, really enjoy this book. There's just that one moment that has left me kind of heartbroken, I guess. Anyways, moving on is a 4-star read. I read Getting Away with Murder, The True Story of the Emmett Till Case. This is like a middle grade book about the Emmett Till case, about the boy who was murdered. He was dragged out of his family's home in Chicago after supposedly whistling at a white woman, which we find out years later that never happened. This is not the most recent edition of it, and I would highly suggest getting the new print of it because there is like an epilogue type thing going on where it goes into how this case feeds into what we are seeing with more recent cases. But I thought that this was extremely well done as an introductory for kids into the disgusting, vile things that happened in this time period to this child. It's also, again, it's going to be detailed because it's a murder case, and it's also very disturbing how smug the men are who did this and how they just got away with it. Yeah, it was another hard read. It was 4 stars. Moving on to my next read, which was another 4-star read. I kind of got in a slump, I guess. Not a slump. They all were really good books. So I guess I got very particular. This is a 4-star read for me. Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs. I can't read that on the Waller. It's a very hard font to read. And anyways. So this book is about a girl who is simply wanting to have an abortion after losing her virginity, and it doesn't go the way she wanted it to, and she finds herself pregnant after the first time, and her friends basically have to go on this road trip because of all the insanely strict laws within her state. I believe she's in Texas. I want to say she's in Texas. I can't see that. But they even cross the border into Mexico to get abortion pills. And it's just it goes into like all the different hoops she had to jump through. And she didn't even ultimately get what she wanted. This is obviously a very scary reality because even since I've read this, more states are going into like extremely strict abortion laws, are going extremely the opposite polarizing way. And oh man, it's just about the right a woman should have to her own body, even as this young girl is finding herself in a situation that would alter her complete future. Yeah, it was a hard read, but it's very necessary to give this point of view a light to people who are very close-minded to it. I completed, finally, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This, I think, just wasn't for me. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. You have a love-hate relationship between these two people that work together, that are kind of like competing for the same job. Their names are Lucy and Joshua, and it was just too much detail. It was too slow. Like, it was drawn out. It was just too much. I wasn't really a fan of it, but it wasn't the worst ever. It could have been even worse. So, and the last book I read in April was Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World, and this was a 4-star read for me. This one is about a girl and her family who lose their house in a tornado, which there's been a lot of those lately, so that kind of hit close to home. But she has a journal that has gone missing, and in that journal she draws pictures of girls holding hands, and it's about her coming to the realization that she likes girls. This was a very well done middle grade novel about her just finding herself, and I think that there's a lot of power to put that into kids' hands. And so it's one that I will be looking into putting into our collection at school, I hope. But it is definitely the perfect book to talk about last as we are going into Pride Month in June. Like I said, 21 books I read in those 2 months, I've read a whole bunch more for the Asian Readathon, and I'm super excited for all the books that I picked out for Pride Month as well. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments below what you thought of them. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.